I just want to start. I want to thank you all for coming today and giving us the opportunity to address you all at the same time. Obviously, we had a crime that was as horrific and as violent as Boynton Beach has ever seen on Saturday night. And we wanted to take this opportunity to put some information out for you, the citizens of Boynton Beach. And we wanted to let you know that the investigation is still very active. In fact, at this stage of the game, we're pursuing numerous leads and numerous people who we think may be involved in this crime. There's not a lot that we can release to you for obvious reasons. There's a lot of criminal intelligence that's been generated, and we're following up on the intelligence information now. So if I seem like I can't give you a lot of information, I really can't, because at this point it may jeopardize the case. So what I can tell you, and what I want the citizens of Boynton Beach to know, is that this was not a random act. This is not a home invasion. This is not a random crime that occurred in the neighborhood. The people in the house who were killed were targeted. Not particularly those people, but the people in that house was targeted by people who were engaging in what possibly may be retribution, possibly maybe something else. We're not really going to say right at this time, but it was not a random crime. We're pursuing everything that we can at this point, and we suspect that we'll bring this to a close shortly.
Can you tell us what the retribution was for, and who possibly would have the targets been if they weren't necessarily the women?
I can't give you specific names right now, but what I can tell you is that over the last several weeks and over the several months, we've had crimes committed at Boynton Beach, mostly shootings where people were shot at, some were actually hit, and that there is some form of retaliation that may be going on here. That's one of the areas that we're pursuing. We're not discounting anything at this point. We're not going to say that some people are involved, some people are involved. We're open to everything. We're pursuing every lead that we get. People have been coming forth, and we encourage people to continue to do that. That if you have information about this, we'd like you to give it to us. We'll pursue it, we'll talk to you, we'll keep it confidential, and that's what we're doing right now.
What else can you tell us about this shooting having a connection to other shootings? I mean, is that, it said likely in the press release, is there anything else you can tell us for sure? I mean, is it the same weapon being used, the same people are involved, the same targets?
Well, we can't say anything about the forensic evidence at this point, because obviously we've just collected it and we're still processing it. But we do believe that there is a connection between this and other offenses that have happened in Boynton Beach, and that's what we're pursuing.
Drug activity? I mean, what are we talking about?
I think drugs may be a part of it. It may not be all of it. But again, we're not discounting anything at this point.
Can you tell us where Daphne's husband was during the shooting, if he was home?
I don't know.
Chief, you said there were other people, the children were in the house, and that, you know, the women were not necessarily the intended target. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Just the occupants of the house would have been the house and the occupants therein. We're not sure if the people that were killed, the two ladies that were killed, were the actual targets, or if somebody else perceived to be there who was possibly there were the targets. At this point, we really can't say.
You're saying it could have been a visitor to the house? Because I thought it was just one family that lived there with the children. Was it more than just the one family?
Yeah, I mean, there could have been visitors. I mean, at this point, we don't know what the perpetrators may have thought at that time. We just know that that location would have been the targeted location.
Well, then do you think that Daphne's husband was the target?
I can't really say at this
The adult male
point.
that lived there?
I can't say at this point.
Were there adolescent males that lived there?
Yes.
Were.
Can you tell us the age? I understand 17 was 17-year-old?
That's correct.
And then the oldest child did not live with them?
I can't say for sure on that. I don't.
And then, can you just explain how this happened? Because from what I've seen or heard, the press release said that they opened the door and the gunman fired, or did the gunman open the door? Like, did they knock and then they opened the door and they shot them, or how did that go down?
I don't think they knocked, but I think what happened is the gunman approached the house. Whether they opened the door, kicked the door open or not, we're not really definite on that at this point, because we have witness statements and then we have forensic evidence that we're still examining. And obviously, eventually, we'll make that determination. But right now, what we do know is that two gunmen approached the house, and then using high-powered weapons, they began shooting into the house.
And both of them were in the doorway, or they had to go into the house? To start
Again,
shooting?
the amount of intrusion into the house and where they exactly were standing, we're not ready to call that yet. Again, we're still evaluating evidence.
How did the woman across the street come into the line of fire?
We believe that possibly they shot at her when they saw her across the street.
As they were leaving?
Correct.
Multiple shots, or maybe just the one that hit?
No, multiple shots.
And what about the children? Were there children or minors in the same room of these two women who witnessed the shooting, or were they in other
There were
rooms?
minors in the house. We can't say exactly what room they were in right now.
The youngest child, where was that? You don't know where the youngest child was 5 or 6, I understand?
6.
6, okay. And you don't know where that child was?
Again, we're placing everybody in a particular location at the time of the shooting is something that we're going to do definitely at some point. But again, we have to evaluate all the eyewitness evidence and the forensic evidence at this point.
Is there any description of the gunman at this point that you can release?
We have a description, but we can't release it at this point.
Do you know who you're looking for?
We have people that we suspect, yes.
Do you think that they were known to the people who opened the door, the sisters?
I can't say if they were known to the sisters. I don't know.
Do you think the sisters were actually innocent victims, even though there's somebody in the house may have been targeted, those two victims? Do you think they were just innocent?
Again, we can't say for sure at this point.
Because you don't know whether they were involved in whatever was going on, or
Yeah, we don't
because-
know. We're still trying to establish the relationships and the level of involvement in various activities.
Are these men considered armed and dangerous, or how would you portray?
Yes, they're armed and dangerous, yes.
And people who might know who they are, or any information?
Well, again, we've gotten information, and we're working on the information. There's nothing we can put out publicly right now because it may jeopardize the investigation because of some of the leads that we're following right now. So at this point, I apologize for not being able to put that out to you right now, but at this point, it would be prejudicial to the investigation.
Did they flee in a vehicle, or were they on foot?
They probably fled that vehicle.
You don't have any witness statements as to the description of the vehicle? or
We
anything?
have witnesses, yes, but again, that's one of the things that we can't disclose right now.
And what about, did you mention gangs? Is this suspected gang activity?
We're not discounting anything. There's no evidence to say that it was or it wasn't at this point, but it's something that we consider in every investigation. So.
Were the women shot at specifically, or was it a random just shot? Is that
No, I believe
reasonable?
they tried to kill them.
But did they target it, or was it just like a like let me just shoot? And
There were a lot of bullets, and the impacts were made all over the front of the house where they approached. So.
Can you give us an idea of how many shots were fired, how many bullets?
Again, we don't want to say that right now because again, there's certain information regarding the weapons themselves that we need to keep confidential at this point.
But it was two different rifles used, like both the gunman had?
We can't say right at this point exactly what they were using.
But were they both armed?
Again, it's difficult for us to be able to tell you that right now.
So it could have been just one of them walking in and shooting at the place?
Anything's possible at this point. And again, the reason I don't want to give that to you is we don't want to put information out and we find later that our information may have varied or something, and that could prejudice a prosecution at a later date. So what I'm giving you now is just the information that mainly it wasn't a random act of violence. In fact, it was a targeted, planned act of violence, and that's really what we want to get across right now. The other thing that we want to get across is the fact that our presence in the area has increased greatly. We have our officers there, especially in the area of the shooting. So we want the citizens to feel secure and safe that we are there, and we will be there for quite a while.